In a small countryside village by a gentle river, there was an old thatched house nestled under the shade of green bamboo trees. In that house, a father and his little shrimp son lived, relying on each other. Father Shrimp was a kind and hard-working man who worked as a hired laborer every day to make a living. The life of the father and son was extremely difficult. Father Shrimp's clothes were old and tattered, patched in many places, and their meals consisted only of wild vegetables and a few boiled sweet potatoes. But no matter how hard life was, Father Shrimp always did his best to ensure that his son, Little Shrimp, had enough to eat and could sleep peacefully. However, one day, Little Shrimp suddenly fell ill. That morning, just as the sun was rising, Father Shrimp was preparing to go to work when he heard his son coughing under the blanket. Dad, I feel so weak, Little Shrimp murmured, his face pale, his forehead burning hot. Father Shrimp panicked, placing his hand on his son's forehead and feeling the intense heat radiating from him. Without hesitation, he quickly carried his son on his back and rushed to the village clinic. After checking Little Shrimp's pulse, Dr. Loach sighed and said, Little Shrimp has a high fever. He needs fever-reducing medicine and nutritious food to recover quickly. But the medicine is quite expensive. You'll need to prepare a good amount of money to buy it. Hearing this, Father Shrimp felt his heart tighten. There wasn't a single coin left at home. Just last night, he and his son had to survive on thin porridge. But seeing his son lying weakly, his eyes dull and tired, he knew he couldn't give up. Early the next morning, Father Shrimp hurried out to look for work. He wore his old, worn-out clothes, with several torn patches on his shirt, but he didn't care. He only hoped that someone would hire him. On the first day, he took a job plowing the fields for Mr. Buffalo. His small claws were not used to such heavy labor, but he pushed through, dragging the plow across the waterlogged field. As the sun rose high, sweat dripped from his face, and his stomach growled with hunger. Yet, he only took a few quick sips of water before continuing to work. By evening, Mr. Buffalo paid him a small wage, but it was still not enough to buy medicine for his son. On the second day, he took a job carrying water for Mr. Eel's household. The bamboo yoke was too heavy, and the water-filled buckets on both ends weighed down on Father Shrimp's shoulders, making them ache. But each trip earned him a single coin, so he pushed himself to keep going. By noon, the villagers were enjoying their meals with rice and braised fish, while Father Shrimp had only a small, hardened piece of bread. Still, he forced himself to swallow it, thinking that by tonight, his son would have the medicine he needed. On the third day, he went into the forest to collect firewood to sell. The sharp, dry branches scratched his hands, leaving small cuts that bled, but he didn't care. He wandered everywhere, picking up every small piece of wood, bundling them together, and carrying them on his back to the market. The money he earned from selling firewood wasn't much, but at least it added to the amount he was saving for his son's medicine. On the third day, he went into the forest to collect firewood to sell. The sharp, dry branches scratched his hands, leaving small cuts that bled, but he didn't care. He wandered everywhere, picking up every small piece of wood, bundling them together, and carrying them on his back to the market. The money he earned from selling firewood wasn't much, but at least it added to the amount he was saving for his son's medicine. Father Shrimp hurried to the market, using his hard-earned savings to buy fever medicine and some good food for his son. He could have bought himself a new set of clothes or treated himself to a proper meal after days of hunger and exhaustion. But no, he only thought about his son. When he arrived home and saw that Little Shrimp was still weak, Father Shrimp immediately cooked porridge and fed him spoon by spoon. Eat up, my son. The porridge is warm. It will help you get better quickly. Little Shrimp looked at his father, his eyes welling with tears. Dad, please eat with me. Father Shrimp just chuckled. I'm not hungry. You eat as much as you can. But the truth was, he hadn't eaten anything all day. His stomach growled with hunger, yet seeing his son regain a bit of strength, with his eyes slowly brightening, filled Father Shrimp with warmth. A few days later, thanks to the medicine and his father's devoted care, little Shrimp fully recovered. He could sit up, run, and play in the small yard in front of their house. Little Shrimp hugged his father tightly and whispered, "Dad, I love you so much." Father Shrimp gently patted his son's head and smiled warmly. "As long as you are healthy, no hardship matters to me." Even though his clothes were still torn and life remained difficult, as long as his son was well, that was enough for Father Shrimp.